How's it going, Jets fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Ryan Moran, and today we want to take a look at a couple of offensive linemen the Jets could look at to sign and maybe even improve this line a little bit more. Now, we do know that PFF ranked the Jets offensive line 13th in the league, which in my opinion is pretty damn good considering the struggles they had last year to begin the season. But I think that overall, Elijah Vera Tucker going into his second year, Mekhi Becton coming back, having George Fant, available and probably going to fill that left tackle role. This team is on the up and up. They got Laken Tomlinson. It is going to be a better situation, but you can never have enough good offensive linemen. We've seen this as a Giants fan, as Jets fans. We all know that offensive line is the key to protecting your quarterback and to providing good offensive scheme and good run blocking. And Breece Hall and Michael Carter definitely are going to need it. And we want to take a look at some guys who could potentially even offer some more value as reserves, maybe even as starters. So there's definitely a couple guys we have in mind. And Ryan, before we do dive into those, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Alex. I appreciate it. I mean, with Joe Douglas's background, you're never going to stop thinking about the offensive line position, and he's definitely prioritized it pretty tremendously throughout his 3 off seasons to this point, starting in 2020. Obviously, you ran down most of the starters there, which the Jets can feel great about. It's across the board the best group they've had in really quite some time. With Fant, Becton, ABT, Laken, Connor McGovern, and even 3 notable backups at this time, Nate Herbig, who they just acquired from Philly after the draft when he got released. The guy who Douglas was with in Philly, it was shortly before the Jets hired him in 2019. He was an undrafted free agent, and over the last 2 years, has played roughly 20 games, can play guard and center. So that's a really nice, third interior guy. And then even the fifth, when you factor in the 3 starters. And then you have Dan Feeney as your 5th interior offensive lineman who, showed some good things last year. A guy that's played, I think, over 60 starts in the league throughout his 5 seasons. Did some good things in the running game the last couple of games last year. And like Herbig as well, can play center, can play both guard positions. So I think the interior is looking pretty good. Obviously, at offensive tackle, they drafted Max Mitchell in the 4th round, who's going to be the 3rd tackle as of now. We've obviously discussed whether or not a veteran, similar to like a Morgan Moses situation last year, they were to bring in a couple players we'll discuss here, later on. And I think, from there, you have Connor McDermott and Chuma Edoga, who have both been with the team for 3 years now. And I think if there is an opportunity to upgrade there and to really allow Max Mitchell to be eased in and get that strength up as a rookie, it would probably be ideal. And we'll obviously discuss a couple of the targets here coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm pretty confident that Vera Tucker, Tomlinson are going to do a really good job. But given injury and, things happen, it's the NFL, injuries do happen, especially at the MetLife turf. Can never trust that. I think that it's fair to take a look at some guys. And the first one we actually want to discuss is the center position, right? Connor McGovern has had his fair share of struggles with this Jets team. Last year had a much better season than his 2020 numbers. Really bad pass protector in 2020. Stepped it up a ton as a pass protector and as a run blocker. Still, could use a little bit of improvement. Gave up 4 sacks, 19 pressures, and had 3 penalties. So we want to discuss the potential of signing J.C. Tretter from the Cleveland Browns. Now, J.C. Tretter is one of the best pass protecting centers in football, bar none. In fact, most would argue he is the best pass protecting center in football. He had 1 sack allowed last year, 10 pressures, and he had really, really great run blocking grades to go with it. So, he's played over 1,000 snaps in 5 consecutive seasons. He's extremely reliable. He's extremely good. And, pairing him next to Elijah Vera Tucker and Laken Tomlinson, you're talking about, in my opinion, one of the best interior lines in football. And the Jets have an opportunity to move on from Connor McGovern this year because of his contract. If you're looking at his contract right now, they have an out in 2022, basically only $1.3 million in dead money. He has a $10.3 million cap hit. So you would actually save a good chunk of change, and you could roll that over theoretically to a guy like JC Tretter, who would upgrade your center spot significantly. Now the question is, like, does JC Tretter want to wait it out and like kind of join a contender? Like, what is his goal ultimately, or what does he want? But in my opinion, if the Jets kind of wanted to roll over some of that money and JC Tretter was interested in joining them, I would replace Connor McGovern so fast with JC Tretter, you wouldn't even have to ask me twice, let alone the first time. Like, I would do it hands down without any alternative motives, nothing. Like, you do that, right? He's an amazing pass protector. If you want Zach Wilson to have the best pass pro center in football, like, this is the guy to do it. So what is your opinion on this? Do you think it's reasonable? Or do you think, you stick with Connor McGovern, you give him the confidence and the motivation to kind of have a good third year with his team? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Definitely. So I understand a lot of your points. Like you said, it could be an opportunity for growth and to get better. I mean, he's been durable over the last 5 years. He's been productive with the Packers, the Browns. He's been a successful player for a long time. But I think it was the point you said. I mean, just knowing that the Jets aren't necessarily a win now team, and you look at some of the teams he's been on, I don't necessarily know that the interest would be mutual if the Jets even had interest in him. And you did say it. Obviously, there was an easy out this offseason in Connor McGovern's contract, and the Jets definitely gave him that vote of confidence. Like he was improved last year. That's certainly the case. And you hope, even healthier with a better, guard tandem around him. I think a guard tandem that's probably a top five, duo in football right now on paper. And being in that contract year, I think you're going to really see McGovern give the Jets his best year yet. He's going to build on the comfortability he got in the scheme last year. He's an aggressive, tough pass blocker, and he's a good athlete in the running game. He's obviously had success in similar type of offensive schemes, with the Broncos. And obviously last year, he had a good year. So I think ultimately, while Tretter has had a remarkable career, at this point in time, I just can't really see the Jets moving on from McGovern with where things stand.
That's fair. I mean, I guess my argument really comes down to like you're saving what, $9 million, $8.5 million if you cut JC Tretter, or rather if you cut Connor McGovern right now. That might be JC Tretter's market price. That might be how much it costs to get him. So why not do that? What I mean? Like, I guess maybe they just think that Connor McGovern knows the system. He knows the scheme. They don't have to like get JC Tretter like caught up, but I think he has enough experience to like catch on pretty quickly. He has experience with Elijah Vera Tucker as well, Connor McGovern. So, there are variables that do benefit both players, that do promote, pros and cons. But, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section on JC Tretter and Connor McGovern. What do you think about that? Would you go out and get JC Tretter, or would you, cut Connor McGovern? It could still happen. There's a couple months left for that to unravel. So maybe we'll see some interesting moves from this Jets team. But the next player we want to talk about is Riley Reiff. Now, we've spoken about Riley Reiff in the recent past. He met with the Jets to kind of fill that reserve tackle role. Maybe he's looking for a starting role. He was injured last year, did not partake in the postseason with the Cincinnati Bengals, gave up 4 sacks and 21 pressures, played all of his snaps, 711 snaps at right tackle. He's been pretty durable throughout his career, pretty solid run blocker, pretty solid pass blocker. I'd say he's average, maybe a little bit above average. He only had 1 penalty last year and 1 penalty in 2020, so he's pretty consistent in that category as well. Has a ton of experience at left tackle. So, that value as a swing tackle. I know you have Morgan Moses last season, the Jets did. So, maybe replacing Morgan Moses, Mekhi Becton, can you really trust him to stay healthy? I'm not totally sure. I definitely would like to have an insurance policy. We do have Chuma Edoga, but, do we trust him to be a regular starter? Not really. You got Max Mitchell, who you got in the 4th round. Good player, a little undersized. I don't think I trust him just yet as a rookie to fill that, swing tackle role. But I do think Riley Reiff has so much experience. If the Jets want to like maybe take a big step forward this year and just kind of shore up the offensive line, make sure Zach Wilson doesn't skip a beat, I think Riley Reiff is a good player to come in there if he's willing to kind of serve a backup role. What do you think about Riley Reiff and potentially, targeting him as a free agent?
Definitely. I love the idea personally. Obviously, he's someone the Jets brought in on a visit about 3 weeks ago now. And you said it. I mean, he would be that Morgan Moses, that veteran type of signing in the summer to just provide more insurance, just to upgrade the depth on the offensive line. You said it. I mean, the way injuries can happen at the end of last year, I mean, Zach, across the board, running back, receiver, tight end, offensive line, he did not have very much to work with. And I think that's at this time of the year where you got to really stress depth and place an emphasis on acquiring as many, especially in Reiff's case, someone who's accumulated so much experience. He's proven himself to, be successful at a high level. And I think ultimately it really just comes down to where Max Mitchell is at. If he is really getting stronger and, he's ready to make that transition from Louisiana to the NFL, I think, maybe you don't have to make the move as much, but there is that unknown as well. And just a lack of experience to where if Fenn or Becton go down, you want to maybe have just a little bit more of a known commodity. And I think that's where Reiff would provide a ton of value to the Jets as a 3rd swing tackle.
Yeah, it's a good perspective. The next player we have in mind is Daryl Williams, formerly of the Buffalo Bills. So Daryl Williams, definitely experienced. He's a good pass protector. 2020 with the Bills, he had an 80.1 overall pass blocking grade according to PFF, 7 sacks allowed and 29 total hurries. So the 7 sacks definitely stands out. 2019 with the Panthers, he gave up 12 sacks. I mean, that's absurd, but he did play almost every position. He played LT, LG, RG, RT. So like obviously he was being kind of moved around, and that lack of consistency does impact a player's success. Although in 2020, he kind of stayed at right tackle specifically. And then 2021, he played at right guard and right tackle, and 720 snaps at RG and 571 at right tackle. So that versatility, experience at every single position, you can't really find value like that all the time. And here's the thing about Daryl Williams, while I do like him a lot, he's going to want a starting role. I think that he's looking for a starting job. I think he's just waiting for someone to go down on a team probably that's competing. That's like, oh, okay, Daryl Williams is still on the market. Let's go out and pick him up. He's an immediate starter at right guard or right tackle, and you don't have to skip a beat. Like that's kind of the thing about him, is that he's young enough where I think he's, what is he, 29, so he's not even 30 years old yet. He obviously is ready to compete now with the team. And I think he may see the Jets as too much of a rebuilding squad, and they obviously have a lot of good offensive guards and tackles. So, maybe that's not the right spot for him. What do you think about Daryl Williams?
For sure. I mean, he's a favorite of mine for sure, but I think you really hit on the main points there. With his best year obviously was in 2020 when he was mainly at right tackle. Now he does provide that versatility, which is really nice. Like I said, with Nate Herbig and Dan Feeney, to have reserves who can really play across the board, it gives you, a nice amount of flexibility, just adding another element to the depth that you have. And I think the, lack of starting opportunities with the Jets would definitely probably hurt his chances of coming here. I think there are certain teams throughout the league who probably are more competitive and have more of a need, whether it's at right tackle or right guard. And that's probably what Williams is waiting on, I would guess, at this point in time. And I think overall, to be able to play tackle and guard just makes him that much more valuable if the Jets do want him and he does sign. I think it would be, really a great move just because of that, element of Fent and Becton both being better at left tackle, and he's really a right tackle. So if, someone were to go down, he could fill in there and the other would be able to go to the left side. So I think Williams, while, that 2020 season was great, obviously last year it wasn't the same. And that's the reason the Bills moved off of him on that big contract. You had some moving parts on the offensive line to where Spencer Brown obviously took over at right tackle and he moved in the guard. But I think Williams, obviously he's 28, 29, and the experience that he's got, the success that he's had, really in 2020, I think makes him a pretty valuable player on the market. And look, I would love really any of these guys just to continue to add depth, and you never know with injuries and things like that. So I think the more proven players that you'd have, just the better backups, the better the chance the Jets offense is successful this year. And you're giving Zach Wilson every asset possible around him to be successful. And I think whether it's Williams, Reiff, or Tretter, would definitely be a potential upgrade.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Jets have gone a long way to building this offensive line. Zach Wilson is going to have his best shot at really putting together a really successful season. As a rookie, really the first half of the season for him was just filled with offensive line mishaps and just poor blocking. And I think that they lacked a lot of chemistry because there was moving pieces, right? Greg Van Roten was garbage, absolute garbage. Then you go and look at, the right tackle spot with Becton going out, just a myriad of guys just filling in. Morgan Moses actually played pretty well. Adoga stinks. Connor McGovern has his moments where he messes up and he makes bad plays, but overall, I think he played a lot better last year, as we kind of confirmed before. Elijah Vera Tucker, stud. Love Elijah Vera Tucker. Had a couple of games where he was wishy-washy, but I think that this year he's going to put it all together. Now making that transition to right guard, interesting. Don't know exactly how that's going to impact his progression. Maybe it's almost like he copies his rookie season at the new spot, but I think he's good enough to really hold it down and put together a pretty solid campaign nonetheless. So curious to see how he kind of adapts to that right guard spot. And then, Laken Tomlinson, we looked at him a couple days ago on our film analysis, and man, that guy is a power run blocker. He puts bodies on the floor, he buries them, cremates them, and tosses them in the Hudson River. Absolute stud. He's going to be a great addition to this team, and he's going to really open up big running lanes for Michael Carter and Breece Hall. So it'll be fun to watch them run behind him. Big, aggressive guy. When he gets his hands on you, man, it's like the jaws of life. He's not letting you go. So it's pretty fun, guys. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on these offensive linemen. Anyone that you think the Jets might, be keen on attracting or really bringing into this team to really inject some more talent into the unit, because obviously the more the better at this point. It's really about Zach Wilson's development. If you spend a couple extra bucks on making sure Zach Wilson is safe and protected and has a good year, that's going to go a long way towards playoff aspirations in 2023. That's kind of my main point. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, leave a comment. Love to hear your perspectives and opinions. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Jets episode.